So tell me a little bit about your belonging as a refresher from last time.
So the two places that I felt like I belonged the most were within my cultural nation and my civic nation. So cultural being my cultural background, and then civic being me being Canadian.
Okay, so where's the line for you? How far are you willing to go for your belonging?
So personally, I would go as far as to feel a sense of accomplishment of belonging until it was at the expense of others.
When should nations stop pursuing national interests?
So personally for me, I think a nation should stop pursuing their national interests once they have physically, emotionally, economically, etc. affected a whole entire nation. And I do understand that national interests of different countries will not necessarily meet up. So different people will be affected in different ways, but once there's a dramatic effect on something, I think that it's where you have crossed the line, much like what Hitler did when he crossed the line to kind of take over the Jewish population.
Why do you feel a sense of accomplishment when you belong?
So I think belonging is definitely it's an ultimate goal for some of us, and so to belong is once you reach that goal, I think you definitely feel a sense of accomplishment.
So you gave me an example of Hitler having a dramatic effect because of his national interest. Can you give me an example of a nation pursuing national interest without having a dramatic effect?
So I find that there are lots of things that nations do to execute their national interests. However, not a lot of them are showcased, but I find a good example of one is the different types of governments we choose to govern our countries. So with Canada, we have chosen the parliament, so we have a prime minister instead of a president, and things like that. Can you give me a recap of where you feel like you belong from the last time?
Okay, so before I talked about how I belonged in my geography nation or my civic nation, as I felt I belonged in my country and the values and beliefs that I'm under, and also my geography, the mountains, the place.
And can you describe where the line is for you, / how far are you willing to go to feel like you belong?
Okay, so in order for me to feel belong, I need to be belonged by my true self and my values and beliefs. So the line for me is when I start to act like someone else, or it affects me in any way to be not who I am. That's when I stop, and that's where the line is.
When do you think nations should stop pursuing their national interests?
Nations should stop pursuing their national interests when it starts to hinder any part of their nation in any way.
Do you feel like there was a time where you went too far in order to belong, and can you explain that time?
Okay, so I think everyone in their lifetime goes too far to feel belonged. Everyone wants to feel belonged. They want to have that comfort in their life. I think for me, of course I have. But I had to learn from it, and I feel that everyone has to learn from the situation and know where the line is for them.
Can you give us an example of a nation's people getting hindered based on that nation's national interests?
So a person like Hitler. So Hitler's beliefs and values presented after World War I were not collectively agreed upon by the nation state of Germany because it is difficult to have national interests everyone agrees with, even though it was hard to believe because they needed a sense of hope after the post-traumatic stress they went through after World War